Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one right before the start of season 12, I am going to be ranking every single jungler in the game according to their design qualities as a jungler. Yes, that means we will have S tier jungle design and F tier jungle design. Well, not quite, we didn't go that low, but there are a few that I do think need to be reworked. A lot of times people ask me why a jungler is viable, why junglers aren't viable, what about XYZ jungler? So instead of actually having to answer that the entire year, we can just look at the design about why certain junglers are the best, why others are perpetually always there, and what holds other junglers back from greatness in their design. So please, if you are concerned about what's happening in Season 12 and how it's going to affect the jungle as a whole, see the Jungle Changes video that I just released. Please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing if you do enjoy the videos. The Patreon has coaching VODs for those of you on that final grind, also coaching signups. The gameplay channel will have full champion gameplays released as soon as Season 12 hits. And now without hesitation, let's begin. I'm going to start off by talking about Lee Sin just to give you an idea of what it means to be an S tier design jungler. In this situation, we're talking about something that has map mobility, map scaling, the ability to slow, hard CC, gap closes, sustain, can build a whole bunch of different types of itemization and rune sets, has shields for teammates as well. And because of this, is meta agnostic. That means he doesn't care what the meta is. If it's a ganking meta, he can do that. If it's a farming meta, you can also do that. Agurin and Cadril showed you that this year in their particular bout. Different styles of jungling, but Lee Sin will suit you no matter what. Yeah, he's stronger in the early game than he is in the late game, but not really anymore. The itemization choices, plus the fact that that kick is just so damn divisive. It's so strong. Disengage, engage, flash kicks, whatever you need, it can be. Throw in the ability to solo and take objectives very easily because of that Q execute, you have an S tier quintessential design jungler. And there may be different pros and cons about why someone is an S tier design jungler, but nevertheless it still has that whole list of, well, they can do pretty much anything. So let's start off with a Muumuu. I'm giving a Muumuu a C tier grade, and you're gonna go, whoa, we just went from S to a C, that's a huge drop off, and I'm saying, well yeah, I actually could have put him in D, to be honest with you. The reason I didn't is because that new rework that just came through, the double Q mechanic, really is a nice way of having a gap closer plus CC or chain CC all built in with one champion. The ultimate is also a game changer. The thing is, he got buffed basically to make him better for jungling and higher elo, and instead he became a pick ban support. The champion just isn't as suited to jungling with slower clear, slower speed, no real inherent map scaling, just basically a ball of tank that CCs you a little bit. Next up we have Diana. I'm giving her a nice B tier grade. The reason for this is even though she's been an S tier jungler and an A tier jungler this year alone, she is simply way too clear speed dependent, and it does satisfy the fighter assassin AP hybrid niche that you need from the jungle. But if Riot can take you in and out of the meta just by slowing down your clear speed because you don't have inherent crowd control, slows, or truly well built in map scaling, well then you're not really the best designed jungler, are you? Echo on the other hand is an A tier jungler, not an S tier because he has struggled historically due to his clear speeds and not making it really fit into the meta in certain instances. For example, he has disappeared for long stretches of time until Riot gave him a passive monster damage buff. But his kit overall is beautifully designed for the jungle, nice flanks, counter ganking, excellent team fighting, and he scales supremely well. I mean, it does help when you have a 2.25 second stun and your W at rank 1, and if you made his clear too fast, you would just basically be S plus tier design pick ban all the time. Following that, we have Elise. Now, most of you will say, whoa, Elise and Lee Sin, historically, they go together. These are the kings and the queens of the jungle. The problem with that is she is perfectly designed for the jungle. She has map scaling, she has CC, she can snowball everything you need, she can solo objectives, everything you want from a jungler she has. But she just struggles too much in a farming scaling meta, and it's been like that for 2 years. We've not seen a lot of Elise. And if your champion can't really adhere to different kinds of metas just as a byproduct of her kit, she cannot be an S tier design jungler anymore. It's been a long time since Season 9, and Season 10 and 11 have not been the most kind. Following that, we have Evelynn, yet another A tier jungler. She is of course very happy in a farming scaling meta, love the fact that people just can get picked off late game. I just did a video on the gameplay channel. But the fact that her hardcore CC isn't really necessary due to her burst is fine, but if you do need a little bit of CC, it does take a long time to charge up, and she just lacks a little bit too much in the early game. Her real solo carry potential isn't as good as other junglers that are simply just better designed because she doesn't quite have that early game skirmishing, doesn't quite have those early game ganks, she doesn't quite have that objective focus or the tower taking ability, and while that all comes online, it does mean that certain junglers with certain playstyles simply cannot pick her as a byproduct of her kit. But it's pretty damn close, because if you're talking about a scaling AP assassin jungler that loves to farm and basically control games, she is S+ in that area, but doesn't quite fully match up to the original design metric. Next up we have Fiddlesticks, and for this guy I am putting in the S tier page. Why, you might ask? Well, just like Evelyn might have a sort of weaker early game, but the thing is with Predator, a Fear, a Silence, an AoE ult, map scaling, Evelyn doesn't really have that map scaling in the same sense. You have to use your ult to get out of a situation. Fiddlesticks can use his ult to get into it. That, and he's completely meta agnostic. He does not care what the meta is, he's going to do what he wants to do. And if he needs to go Predator in a ganky meta, he will. If he needs to go Dark Harvest or Electrocute for whatever reason, I don't really like the Dark Harvest, but whatever, he can. He's got cheap itemization, free vision control and ward control with his effigies. This champion, the rework, was one of the best Riot have ever done. He fits in so well into the jungle with almost zero downsides. Yes, you can't go fisting in the river, but your pathing is so unique. You can do so many really interesting things to make this champion work. If you want Trinket and you're good at jungling, you can very easily get to high elo, no matter what the meta, because obviously dragon sucking is something you enjoy as well. Next up we have Gragas, and I really didn't say much in the last year's video about it. Basically, he's very predictable. You know what he's going to do, he's going to farm quite slowly, he's going to spam gank with Predator, very telegraphed jungler. He does bring a lot of CC and a lot of damage, so comp play, flex 5s, whatever that may be, clash, he's an excellent pick, but for solo queue in terms of champion design, even though he has a lot of the things you want, it's just kinda slow. Following this, we have Graves, and he has to be an S tier design jungler because basically the meta has seemingly revolved around him since Season 6. We go through periods where he's not really seen, and the Riot buff his AD, they buff his armor, they buff something else, and then he becomes OP and they just slowly remove them over time, and then they realize, wait a second, Graves is gone, we better buff him again. His auto attack, his true grip passive, his W is one of the most broken spells in the game, ladies and gentlemen. He has map scaling, he's a smooth operator. He just goes around the map jungle flow, he controls everything. A good Graves with understanding of the role is basically the most horrific thing you can face as a jungler. And while he doesn't have CC, that's why Rate slows and CC together, and basically his smoke screen is a death sentence if you can't see him. Even though a lot of people miss him in the ADC role from many years back, in terms of the rework, they made the best marksman jungler that could have ever been made, and he is still oppressive to this day. Right, Hecarim is next, and I'm gonna slap him in the A tier page, and you wanna know why? Because while he is the quintessential definition of a rotator supreme, with that comes periods of absolute uselessness because he's too dependent on numbers. He's too dependent on that speed being converted into AD, and sometimes it's just an inherent problem. Sometimes he farms too fast, he rotates too fast, and he does too much damage. And then you nerf the numbers, and then you don't see him. Next up, we have Ivern. Ivern is unique, Ivern is weird, Ivern shields from the jungle. It's the only role he's really designed to play. And while I think the design as a champion is absolutely beautiful, as a jungler, it just leaves way too much on the table in terms of your control over the game. And while a good Ivern can do that, you still require someone else to be able to carry. Jarvan is next, and I really debated B tier, A tier, B tier, A tier. This is because he simply does everything well, but does nothing the best. He is like white bread, he is always there. There's always a jungler that will do something better than him, and he does go through lots of periods where he's just weak because his numbers are not that great, and so basically a lot of people do a lot of things he does better. Next up we have Karthus, and while he's been absolutely dominating over the past couple of years in various phases, basically he's just uninteractive, skill-based with his first clear, but also not really skill-based. Yeah, you do have to have those mechanics and the Q hits and whatnot, does reward map awareness, he has no map scaling, he just has a slow, it's just uninteractive, it's not fun to face, and it's really annoying that he just outfarms you and wins. It's not a good design champion, it's just irritating when he is strong in the jungle. Following Karthus, we have Kayn, and our Kayn also, you thought, oh wow, B tier because of the forms. Yeah, but his design is so unique and so special that you become basically two champions when you get the form. You can select assassin, you can select fighter. He isn't S tier for me because while he does farm fast, he has that 90% slow now, he does have CC when you become Rast. Basically, he has everything you need. That early minigame of accessibility is basically something you hold against him in terms of really being ideal when you talk about designing a good jungler who needs to be strong early in the majority of cases. Let me put it this way, you want to freak out K mains? Hey guys, ganking meta season 9, did you enjoy that? And then you listen, and then you're like, haha. Next, we have Khazix, and he has to be in the S tier page. He just got a huge percentage nerf on his evolved Q and his base Q, but the champion is just perpetually here. Always adapts, does everything you need from a position that has no real inherent CC or slows. Obviously, ISO Q does give you that. And if you don't have that, you need damage, and he has that in spades. Evolve what you want, build what you want, Khazix will always be relevant in the meta. Next up, I have Kindred, and I have to, in the modern game, now put them in the B tier design category. The minigame was great when they first came out, but it's been a long time since 2015-2016. Junglers are smarter, laners are smarter, everyone rotates. Basically, it doesn't work anymore and it needs to be shifted. In terms of thematic, in terms of concept, S+, I love it. I had 200 to 300 games in 2016 on Kindred, but there's gotta be a better way to execute the mark system in the modern game. Next, we have Lilia, a new champion from 2020, lacks reliable early ganks and early CC, but everything else is great. Loves to skirmish well, has kiting, teaches you how to clear in a very fundamental sense, has a dominating teamfight and burn damage and scales like a horse. Has been meta, has been pro dominant, basically checks all the boxes for a solo carry jungler. Really great job by Riot fixing that after, you know, the weird stuff from Kayn, Kindred, and Ivern. Yeah, surprising but nice. I mean, a lot of the best designed junglers are just very tilting and irritating to face because they do their job so well, and if you don't match up to them, then you have a rough time, which is kind of like, I'm complimenting them, but I'm also saying, okay, listen, it's frustrating and you might need to ban some of them when they're strong. What you don't need to ban is Mercy, because this is an abomination D-tier degenerate champion. Simply put, rework it. It should not exist in its current fashion. I do not like the fact that we have 60% damage reduction on W. While the difference between a great Yi and a new Yi is very, very apparent, I don't like the fact that it can become so difficult to handle in solo queue just as a byproduct of having an overloaded, overtuned number kit. It rewards bad habits, it rewards bad elos where they can't close and he simply gets to play the game even though he didn't really do anything. I think junglers should need to work for the leads, not just get them because other teams couldn't close. Also way too much damage, especially considering that alpha makes him untargetable. Also funnel. Next, we have the good doctor. While he isn't really played in the jungle anymore, he's nice and cute, but he's just not really great at this role. This is sad because while he has that cleaver slow and the sustainability of being a gigantic meat sack later in the game, you can really put him in low elo, tell him to farm, and he would scale up to be unkillable. It teaches scaling, it teaches team fighting, it's really nice, but he just isn't really performing well. He does need a few buffs, right? Let's go. Following this, we have Nidalee, and she is S tier. Yes, she requires hands to play, yes, she requires jungle knowledge to execute, but when you fuse those things together, you get literally the hardest to master jungler in the game, but if you execute your will accordingly on the map, oh boy, do you snowball and suppress enemy junglers without any contest. No CCs and real slows, but she can heal and chase you down, so it doesn't really matter. Next, we have Nocturne, and I'm just putting him in the C tier page because he's binary. He's based on numbers. Basically, if he is undertuned or rune sets and builds don't suit him, you don't hear from him. He's the flying pigeon, he flies into wall, he explodes. When he's overtuned, he just flies in and nukes your entire team. Basically, with that fear, he's useful, but he's kind of overall just stat checky and he needs a bit of a minor rework. Remember, they can be C tier design and still good in the jungle in the meta, yes? It's not really saying they're bad at jungling, it's just saying from the design perspective. Keep that in mind. Nuru has decided to populate the A tier page. Ganks, objectives, team fighting, a little slow in the clears, no real map scaling, but well designed, great character. If you like to control the jungle with a tank, this is what you pick. So Olaf is only made up of about what? 2 pixels, and so he's going to be B tier. He does need a rework in that department. No map scaling, doesn't really need it because he runs fast, but he's also a little bit of a stack check, item, and number dependent champion. He's always relevant and he's used in high elo because of his ultimate ability to cleanse all CC, but really that's all he has going for him in terms of the healing component of his kit and that ult. I mean, he's got the chain slowdown and whatnot, but it's just kind of you know what I mean? I mean, it does a lot of things well, you're just kind of not excited to lock in Olaf and go, great, Olaf, this is so fun to play. Following that, we have Poppy, and overall she's a B tier design jungler because she wasn't really designed for the jungle, although she does such a good job in the current meta. She really is a niche pick for counter picking rather than something that's stereotypically a jungler, and hence I have to put her in the B tier page. But Kiana is almost too well designed for the jungle. Obnoxious, horrific to face, tilting, very annoying. That's why she's S tier design. Remember, very often if it's an S tier design, you're not going to enjoy facing it, and no one enjoys facing a fed Kiana. The champion is almost total bullshit. Invisibility, one-shot ability, wave clear, CC, and of course an ultimate that dominates all teamfights and the Baron Pit. She was removed out of the jungle for a reason. It was too oppressive, too frustrating, you couldn't deal with it. And I made the video earlier in the year saying these are forgotten junglers that were fun, even if they were a little bit strong, right? I've rebuffed her basically with the same technique they use all other junglers now, and she dominated it once again. As I said, she's almost too well designed for the jungle. Next we have Rammus, and basically he is just okay. And after Rammus we have RekSai. If you want a jungler designed for the early game and really to dominate the early game with unique gank pathing, creative ideas, dominating ultimate that allows you to avoid crucial spells that will make you useless, you are looking at RekSai. Beautifully done at the end of 2014. The ultimate obviously was a game changer. There was a global teleport, but this rework that brought forth this ultimate really was the next best direction they could have gone with. Whoever handled all of RekSai's stuff from sound design to character design, let's hope the next Void jungler is as perfectly designed for the jungle as she is. Following RekSai, we have Reng, and while Reng is performing really badly this year, he struggled after the Tiamat nerfs, he's getting a minor rework. Overall, as a champion design, A tier. I love it. He has huge issues, but historically, is such an alpha Chad predator pick from the jungle. He has such high skill expression, it's so rewarding to play. You can get into the late game, Exodia builds, you keep selling items and buying items historically. He has the potential to shape an entire meta around him, an entire game around him when he's strong. It is a little bit of a delicate balance in terms of, making sure he's not too inherently strong that idiots can play him. But the Bone Tooth system, they could use that for the Kindred mark system. They need to shift that around. Overall, the champion is just so thematically perfect, so enjoyable to play, and man, it feels so good to be fed on him. Totally unique. Following this, we have Sejuani in the B tier page, and yeah, sure. I used to love playing her before the rework. I kind of do still enjoy playing her a little bit, but she just lacks a certain je ne sais quoi about her in the jungle, and there's better tanks to play. I mean, you might as well play Zac and Nunu most of the time. Shako or Shaco, whatever you might like, is a C tier design champion, and my EU West homies will know what I mean by the use of C. Completely runs on a degenerate, easy to use spell that makes him camouflage with zero downside, and can contort an entire map just to bend to his will because of the question marks that he provides. Can you deal with him later? Yes, but his entire purpose is to piss off everyone in the enemy team, and that's just not good design to me. I just don't like it when cheese is rewarded. Shyvana overall is a C tier design champion because she's really binary in that she has no hard CC, she doesn't really have a slow, she just farms a lot, eventually does a lot of damage with AP. I like the fact that you can choose your own adventure in terms of build paths, but I just think obviously at this point, it's a little boring, it struggles to really work, it can seem kind of OP, but it's also numbers dependent, really just needs a shift around and a full dedicated rework. Skarner is a champion that exists, and he runs at you first and then CCs you, and he forces you to buy QSS. Did I miss anything? Okay, C tier. Now Talia's B tier, but she is an absolutely beautifully designed jungler, but has many down points and low play rates because low numbers in terms of her kit means she has slower clears, which means she can't really actually get ahead. But when she's good, she's almost too oppressive. There's a very fine line about where Talia is balanced, and Riot have always historically struggled to reach it. The map scaling is always on the ultimate. We do have a movement speed passive that helps us move fast, but in order to truly make her shine with that one-shot combo, you do require a bit of setup. But you know what doesn't need setup? Talon. He is in the A tier for abomination, should not be allowed in the jungle. Artificially boosting his clear speed was one of the worst things Riot have done. That should be a heavy downside for the champion. When you can literally yeet over parkour over every single wall with no mana cost all over the map faster than anyone else, you should not be able to full clear and clear as fast as he does. I think they need to nerf that aspect of his kit, but when he is in the jungle, it is a very good designed concept, right? Rotating fast, getting to places quickly, assassinating squishies, but that clear speed should not be as fast as it is, and that's because he's reliant on Riot buffing it artificially, and yes, I'm upset about it. Following this, we have Trundle. Basically, when Riot determines Trundle's at the meta, he's in the meta. When he's not, he's not. Because he's straight up a stat check champion. C tier. I think for the next one, you understand what the D is for in the name Udiya. Pure stat check champion, and when his numbers are too high, he's oppressive. When they're not, he's just kiteable and useless. That's why he's getting a rework, which I am excited for, by the way. Next up, we have Vi. Now, Vi very easily could be an A tier design, but I put him in the B tier because it's just very simple. It's effective, it's strong, a great jungler to learn, lacks higher skill expression and flair. She was the first jungler I climbed with, my most played at the end of Season 3 when I started playing Ranked. But it is straightforward, a little bit blind in that sense, and there's nothing wrong with that. She's still a very strong jungler at the moment. Go and enjoy those free wins at the end of the season. Viego, an S tier design, recently released, beautiful champion from the jungle. I love watching this thing. It's satisfying to play, it's satisfying to watch, it's annoying to face. But thanks to the nerfs that they did recently this season on him after he was basically supremely oppressive, I feel like I can actually beat him and destroy him equally as much. He doesn't have the map scaling, but he moves around the wall so quickly he doesn't need it. He has invisibility, he has CC, he has snowball components. He literally becomes any champion in the game that you might want to be. I think recently with Lilia, with Viego, they've hit the nail on the head with some of these designs, but honestly, Viego takes the cake. As I said, unfun to face, but to play, who doesn't enjoy it? I mean, the people do enjoy resets, so. And my dear beloved Volibear's next rework was a great success, but he still has inherent problems and certain metas that just make him useless. He can still be kited, he can still struggle to gap close, but because the rework was so glorious, they can buff him in any number of ways to make him more viable, and basically with all the different build paths and itemization variants you can use, very few things are as satisfying as hitting a beautiful bonk ultimate to finish people off, get a quadra kill, steal barons. Satisfying sound effects, satisfying design, satisfying character. Obviously has downsides that will prevent him being a supremely well-designed jungler. Hopefully you can see the difference between sort of S, A, and B, but he's right there. Next up, we have Warwick. A-tier design. This is what happens when they put Certainly T on a leash. You get Warwick. One of my mains as well. I love him. He has suppression, CC, healing, DPS, multiple build paths. He has a map awareness activator. Everything you need for skill expression, but also to learn the role. Next, we have Wukong. I literally forgot to put him in the list. So D tier rework, I don't know what they're doing with it. He's just a top lane, a cheese pick at the moment. Unless you're Amut, don't play it. Xin Zhao is S tier because that rework took him over the top. That W range extender for gap close, beautiful. He doesn't have map scaling of his own, but now he has chain CC. He can 5 camp, 6 camp meta as you want now. He can also level 2, level 3 spam gank meta. He does what Java does in that sense way better. His teamfight ultimate is just such a great zoner and disruptor you saw it at Worlds. It's amazing what such a simple change to a champion that's pre-existed for a long time can do in terms of bringing him forth to such great design. And next we have Zac. I'm putting him in the B tier page, could be C tier page, but he does so many things well, and that's tanking and E-slingshotting from across the map. He has his own core identity and basically exists in his own universe of blobberiness, and I think that's great. But it's really nothing truly unique or special. I mean, it's unique, it's just not that special. Well, it is kind of special, but you know what I mean. Finally, we have Zed, D tier, rework, take him out of the jungle, don't want to see it, keep him mid lane, no point in this. Talon is a better version of it, Kiana is a better version of it, you do not need to play Zed from the jungle, play those two if you enjoy it, I don't want to see it. And yes, we have things like Mordekaiser, we have things like Darius, we have other weird picks that you might have seen in the jungle. I focused on these, 44, 45 champions because they have high play rates or historically high play rates, or they were designed to be in the jungle explicitly and played from that role. Or at the very least, Riot is saying we want to support this playstyle. And hopefully you can see on the screen now all the different rankings of the junglers and how much in the last 2 years we've had such a great time with Riot really focusing on jungle designs to make them interesting, unique, and fun to play. In this period alone, we've seen the Volibear and Fiddlesticks reworks, we've seen the Xin Shao rework, we've seen the new champions Lilia and of course Viego be released, we've seen the revitalization of Kiana jungle. But one thing is for sure, Khazix, Lee Sin, Nidalee, those are always going to remain the top. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, share, and comment if you did enjoy and learn something. Be ready for all the Season 12 content coming very soon, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.